Come on in, the entire family. Most of the entire family.
How many people can say that? I'm sure they're there. I'm sure she still has them. That's my guess. And I still have them.
No.
And my oldest friend.
Yes. These two have known each other since junior high school. This is Howard Willen. This is our friend Tim. And Vanessa.
And here's Charlie.
No fun advertisements. It's time. It's been a very long time.
Oh, we're on camera now.
I'm going the other way now. We're now, now I'm on the shrinking side.
Dustin needs ribbon.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
But in general, sounds good.
I wouldn't want
You wouldn't want her to be married. Please finish your spelling. Yes, absolutely.
I'm on the lookout. I got to run to pay my cookie.
It's always a good look.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll stick around for too long.
And this is our friend. This is Howard. He's been friends of ours. He and Bill have been friends since junior high school.
What's your last name?
Will.
Our nephew too.
may already know it last night.
And our dear friend. Yeah, right. Yeah, no. I'm very proud that I got that I
have to write the name or the name, and then you have to draw the page.
that I sort of really I actually got the right name. She is. Keeps the dog very nice. That is the word I put.
Close the door. That'll be all set.
When we were making arrangements for things,
If you'd like to take your seat, please.
I see a number of you have Kleenex at the ready. I have a hanky at the ready. Good, we're all set. Dear ones, we are here today gathered and united in our grief for the sudden and most untimely passing of a beloved sister, a niece, an aunt, a cousin, a friend, a coworker. Her loss will leave a hole in all of our lives. For me and others I have spoken to, there's a great sense of unreality about her passing now. It is humanly incomprehensible to the point of making me wonder how the author of all events could possibly have made this terrible mistake. I actually thought that it wouldn't work at all out this way. If you know me, you won't be surprised that I've given this thought. I figured Betsy would go from one health challenge to another, indefinitely. She'd outlive her brothers. was clear to me, right? She had that much of force of will, her love of life, her extraordinary personality. But I frequently had to remind myself over the course of these past days that this sense that her passing is some terrible error cannot be the last word. Cannot be allowed to obscure how grateful we must be that we had her in our lives for as long as we did. A longer life would, of course, been a beautiful thing. But if Betsy did not achieve length of days as we consider them today, these days were certainly full. She was proud to be a long-term employee of USAA, and she loved her work. Although, like anyone who loves his or her work, she sometimes enjoyed complaining about it. She loved travel. She loved having a Bloody Mary in the airline club. She loved reading. She loved buying jewelry. She loved decorated fingernails. I learned from her dear friend Tui that there were 3 things Tui learned from her. Buy the shoes, take the trip, and give Mike hell. She loved the people she was meeting in the new enterprises she was looking into for her retirement. And I think I can say she loved her family. Although, like anyone who loves his or her family, she sometimes enjoyed complaining about it. This spirit of gratitude, I hope, will guide our remembrance of this woman of valor today. We will do some of the readings from a more or less traditional Jewish service, but following the precedent that the 3 of us established for the funerals of our parents, most of what we do here today will be to reminisce together about Betsy and the times we had, tell stories of happy times or stories that otherwise illuminate who she was. Anyway, we start with a psalm. Anna.
O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. As for us, you turn us to repentance and say, return, you mortals. The days of our years are 70, or by reason of strength 80 years. But 1,000 years in God's sight are but as yesterday, when it is past, or as a watch in the night. Teach us, therefore, to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. And may your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure.
Death has taken our beloved Betsy. We grieve together in our darkened world. In our silence there is lamentation, in tears there is loneliness. Lost in our sorrow, may we find the presence of our family and friends. Together, hear them, O God, be with us. For Betsy's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. That's one theology. Others would say it continues in a more substantial way between this world and another world. For all of this connection in any case, for for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness. And let us give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that bring us the ever new message of God's nearness. It tells of our kingship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. We're all familiar with the 23rd Psalm, although probably not all familiar with the same English version of it, but feel free to chime in. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my foes. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to return to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creature. Would that we were wise, and we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the whole-hearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace, O God. You redeem the soul of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. I think this is a good time to ask family and friends to tell some stories. I know someone who doesn't want to go first. Do I have a volunteer to go first? Tanya, please.
Well, we are a small but mighty crew today, here in person. But I would like to take a moment to welcome and acknowledge the presence of everyone who is joining us through the miracle of technology. Today, we are, all of us, in a community of love and grief. We are together, even though all of us cannot be here, and I'm so grateful. This week, so many have reached out, and I've spoken with so many beloved friends, family members, co-workers who were her family, friends from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And one of the common cries of grief, of shared grief, is that so many of us had plans with Betsy. She was 10 weeks away from retirement, but who's counting? She had an app. There was a countdown app. I got regular updates. And it's hard. It's so hard to think of the unfulfilled dreams and joys that were ahead of us all with Betsy. But a thing that has given me comfort this week is that Betsy never waited. I think it's easy. I think a lot of us say, I'll do it next year. I'll do it when work slows down. I'll do it when I feel better. And Betsy never waited. She took the trip. She bought the earrings. She drank the Bloody Mary. She made the reservation for a wonderful meal, and she said, do you want to come? So when I think about all of those plans that we all had, I say, take the trip. Do it in her honor. Invite a friend. Love your people in her honor. Stand up for what you know is right in rooms where it's hard to do that. Be yourself without apology, because that's who she was. And now we have to be that in her honor. There are too many good stories. I'm speaking in generalities today because my mouth is stopped when I try to tell these stories. But she is with us. She will be with us. We'll spend years missing her, and I'll spend the rest of my life honoring her memory. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. For those who I haven't met yet, I'm the other brother, Bill, and you'll recognize me because Charlie and I look just alike. Everyone tells us that. This is my wonderful wife, Laurel. And I've been thinking about what I could tell you about Betsy that you don't already know. Because everyone here and everyone joining us today from elsewhere has known Betsy, as Tanya said, for 30, 40, 50 years. You all have stories. I've been thrilled that you're sharing the stories on her Facebook, on our Facebook comments, on the Dignity Memorial page. Just wonderful, wonderful stories and comments and photos, and it's been just terrific. And of course, hundreds and hundreds this past week of photographs effectively have been scanning through my head. And I realized that the one thing I could tell people about was Betsy in the beginning. Because I was her 6-year-old brother. Charlie was her 3-year-old brother when Betsy arrived. My mother was thrilled to have a girl, I will tell you that. She was absolutely thrilled. And Betsy was a strong, strong personality from the word go. I remember going to school the first day she came home from the hospital and announcing to my class that I had a new baby sister, and Miss Lancashire, in her own inimitable way, told me to sit down and be quiet. So I had to tell everyone in line that I had a new baby sister, and I was kind of shushed a few times there too. But I was so proud to have another sibling. Betsy, as a tiny child, was adventurous. She loved to swim. She would jump into the pool. At one point, she jumped off the diving board, and as a 2-year-old, and the lifeguard jumped in to save her, and she came up, spit out a mouthful of water, and swam to the side of the pool. It was a new lifeguard. He didn't know. She ice skated as a teeny little pincicla. Ice skates literally this big, white, beautiful ice skates. And she's going around. We used to ice skate at the arena where the Cleveland Barons used to play. And we ice skated at the arena. And one time we're ice skating at the arena, and Betsy fell down, and Charlie didn't want to hit into her, so he fell down, and she got up laughing, and he got up with a broken leg. That was in kindergarten, which means that she was 2, right? Yeah, 2, almost 3 maybe. So she was she taught herself to read, and she went to kindergarten, and her kindergarten teacher, Miss Olmo, told her she was in kindergarten, so she wasn't able to read. So, it wasn't possible. So, Betsy just didn't read in kindergarten. So she read at home, she read in the car, she read all the time. And many of you who have known her know what a voracious reader she was, and I was thrilled to see, she's told us over the years about the writers that she's connected with, and I was so glad to see comments from many of you saying how much you cherished Betsy, because you were all very special to her. I remember her coming back from horseback riding lessons, and it was the one time that she ever had to go down the basement to shower because my mother wouldn't let her upstairs into the bathroom that she and Betsy used. Us boys had to shower in the basement all the time, but Betsy had to go down the basement to shower. I know little silly things have popped into my brain. But they're wonderful things, and she was a wonderful sister, and she was a wonderful sister throughout the years. She joined us in trips to Disneyland, which was, her favorite place in the world, I think. And she'd been all over the world, and it was still her favorite place. She and I went down to Mexico at one point and traveled through the Yucatan Peninsula together. She beat me to Skara Brae and the Orkney Islands because on my trip, there was a storm in the North Sea and I couldn't go over, and she went over and she sent me a postcard from Skara Brae. Just a little bit of competition there. So anyhow, a wonderful person, wonderful memories. And again, I want to thank you all because you all made her life a delight. When she often was up in Cleveland. She was here 3-4 times a year, so we all got together and got to see each other frequently for many families. But the fact of the matter was, you were her day-to-day family. Those of you at USAA, those of you who were her friends. In Tampa and in Sarasota and in San Antonio and all the other places that she had contact with people. I know she loved us, and I know she loved all of you, and I want to thank you for the love that you showed her. So thank you.
Thanks to everyone for being here and for coming in remotely. And so, for those who may not know, I'm Ted, Charlie's son, and Betsy's nephew, and my sister Anna, niece. Hi. This is hard for reasons that others have already articulated, and I think about when we would have 4th of July in Pittsburgh, and Aunt Betsy would almost always come up for that, and she was a fixture for 4th of July, and we would go and we'd be watching the fireworks over the roof of our old synagogue, and I knew she was just such an integral part of those, and toasting s'mores and the whole bit, and what's so hard about this is that she was, even when not co-located, of course, she was so ever present. And that, she could always help out with something. She could always advise about something. And, and it was things, I didn't always agree, right? And then when it came to things on which we didn't always agree, she was usually right, which has taken me long enough to cotton on to. But even irrespective of that, it was never, it may have been, Ted, you're wrong. That's possible. But it was never, Ted, I don't have time for this. Ted, I can't deal with this right now. Ted, this is not that important. It was never that. And man, to be that person, to be that rock for so many, and not for so many people, it's just how amazing she was.
I'm Anna. I'm Aunt Betsy's niece. And yes, sharing all of Ted's sentiments, thinking about the 4th of July coming up and the summers that she would come up and, be the loudest cheerleader for the shaving cream contest and the pizza eating contest and the dunk tank, and how much joy she got not only out of being with family but being with our community and our friends, and how much she so seamlessly integrated into the communities and families of her family and the communities and families of her friends. And like Ted said, just always made the time for everyone and always made it so clear what a joy it was for her, and allowed us to feel such joy in having her with us. Friends, sharing that she was the person they went to their first burlesque show with, and she was the person who, they had their first drink of that variety or that variety with, and these are, my friends or our friends' friends, right? Just the network that she would build and the mark that she would leave on people is more vast than I think any of us realized in the moment or even realize now. I was, thinking this morning about logistics, as is so often the case, and I was thinking about I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm sure Betsy's thought of it, and just had to catch myself and say, she would have thought of it, and she would have had a plan for it, and I would have been able to show up, with my belt undone or my necklace unclasped, and she would have taken care of it and had a plan. And I always, I'm sure, will have that that instinct in my brain of what would Betsy do, the lady from Philadelphia, and she will be so missed.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm also Betsy's niece, and I just wanted to real quick tell about, we always, every Thanksgiving would make the stuffing together, and she was a really enjoyable person to do a task with. Mm-hmm. Doing a task with her was really fun, and I think that a lot of times tasks can become a lot, and so when you have someone to do them with that's fun, I think that makes a big impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just reading an article a couple of weeks ago about how, the funny story that you tell at a wedding or at a funeral probably isn't that funny to people who weren't there, right? So this story probably falls into that category. But it's a story about Aunt Betsy when she was very young. Bill's already provided most of the necessary background. But it's important that, so many people who she had no relationship with, she was Aunt Betsy to them, right? I mean, it's just remarkable. But this sort of happened starting from early on. So here's the illustration. One of the lifeguards from the pool, who was a great fan of this tiny little kid who would just, jump into the water and dog paddle back to, was visiting some relatives of hers in a house that was behind our house, more or less. And she hadn't realized, she didn't know anything about this. But somehow in the conversation it came up that, it was the Rubins who were living there behind. And so this wonderful young woman was so excited to come and see Betsy at home that she ran through a plate glass window. She was fine. But, it's just, that's, I'm not saying a lot of people ran through plate glass windows, but Betsy's friends were very often her friends. Look, we all know she wasn't to everybody's taste, right? Or everybody's taste all the time. But nonetheless, she provoked that kind of affection and loyalty and love, and God bless her. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot falter. Your protector will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forevermore. A woman of valor, who can find her? She is more precious than fine pearls. She does good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel among them all. O God of life, amid the ceaseless tides of change which sweep away the generations, your love remains to comfort us and give us hope. Around us are life and death, decay and renewal, the flowing rhythm that all things obey. Our life is a dance to a song we cannot hear. Its melody courses through us for a little while, then seems to cease. Whence that melody, and whither does it go? In darkness as in light, we turn to you, the source of life, and answer to all mysteries. Traditionally, at this point in the service, we recite, or rather chant, a prayer called El Male Rachamim, Compassionate God. So if I may do that now. El Male Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nachan al Kanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kadoshim, Utorim Kazor Atzkirim, Et Nishmat, Elizabeth Joyce Rubin, daughter of Alan and Audrey, שלחה לעולמה. בעבור שבלי נדרת הן צדקה בארץ קרת נשמתה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. לכן ברחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור האמת נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of the divine presence in the lofty levels of the holy and the pure ones, who shine like the glow of the firmament. To the soul of Elizabeth Joyce Rubin, daughter of Alan and Audrey, who went on to her world. Because without making a vow, we will contribute to charity in remembrance of her soul. May her resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the Master of Mercy shelter her in the shelter of his wings for eternity. And may he bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her heritage, and may she repose in peace in her resting place. Now let us say, Amen. Thanks to all of you who came to be present today. Thanks to all of you who came to be present online. As Bill already made clear, it's a great and wonderful thing for us to be hearing from you. And so thanks again for that. And at this point, we've reached the sitting around telling songs and singing songs and telling lies stage. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Out for you. There were 87 unique viewers. That doesn't mean it could have been more than 87 people, but there were 87 separate views. Nice. So I'm going to print for you where they were. You know, it says San Antonio or wherever they were. It doesn't identify in any other way. I'll send it out for you. Now, this is a live plant. I think you should take that home. That's enduring peacefully. The other two, there's one that just arrived. They're cut flowers. I want you to take the flower cards off so you know who sent them.
Yeah.
But we'll take those to the cemetery tomorrow. Yeah, take a picture of it with the card. Yeah. Because then you know who sent it, what it looked like.
Yeah.
The cards still under there? Yes. Oh. How would you say?